Hello, you're watching VNA News and now headlines.
Experts discuss ways to improve the criminal procedure code's ability to detect and settle corruption cases. The Vietnamese economy is expected to continue its recovery in the year-end months. The consumer price index in September slipped by 0.21% against the previous month.
A seminar was held in Hanoi on September 24th to improve the criminal procedure code's ability to detect and effectively settle corruption cases. The event was co-hosted by the party's Central Committee Commission for Internal Affairs and the United Nations Development Programme.
Reports at the seminar confirmed that positive achievements have been made in terms of anti-corruption efforts in Vietnam, gaining the trust and appreciation from the public. However, there is still much to be done in this field. Panels focus discussions on challenges in criminal cases procedures and combat, as well as international experience and suggestions for Vietnam. They also propose improvements to the criminal procedure code to enhance the detection of and combat against corruption criminals. The draft law on criminal procedure is currently being researched and is expected to be ratified at the next National Assembly meeting. Proposals made at the seminar will serve as the foundation for relevant agencies to develop legal frameworks and regulations on detecting and combating corruption in Vietnam.
The Vietnamese economy is expected to continue its recovery in the year-end months thanks to the government's efforts to maintain macroeconomic stability against fluctuations in the world market.
According to the Ministry of Planning and Investment, China's recent move to depreciate its currency and plunging oil prices would not have any impact on the country's growth, which was now on track to finish at 6.4% this year, 0.2 percentage points higher than the government's target. The ministry said plunging oil prices would even help boost growth if Vietnam knew how to grasp the opportunities, adding that the country has solutions against lower oil prices to ensure budget collection. In addition, measures to support exports, including the devaluation of the Vietnamese dong, also helped shelter Vietnam's export from the impact of the yuan depreciation. The economic growth will also receive a push from improved domestic purchasing power and rising demand of export products. With the macroeconomic stability maintained against fluctuations in the world and regional markets, indicators of growth, inflation, budget collection, budget deficit, trade and production are underway to fulfill the goals. However, the ministry noted that the agricultural, forestry and fishery sectors were anticipated to encounter difficulties due to the downward trend in prices in the world market, worsened by low competitiveness of the sector's products. In its Asian Development Outlook Update report announced on September 22nd, the Asian Development Bank forecasted Vietnam's GDP will expand by 6.5% in 2015 and 6.6% next year.
The State Bank of Vietnam has released a draft circular regulating consumer credit activities of financial companies to better manage lending as well as benefit domestic consumers. Our reporter will bring you more details. Under the draft, commercial banks are required to establish financial companies if they want to venture into consumer lending. Currently, commercial banks can provide loans to consumers, which is considered to be a high-risk venture. Since consumer lending was managed separately from other lending services of commercial banks, the central bank expected it could help the consumer lending market develop more transparency and develop in a healthy and effective manner in accordance with international rules. Specializing in consumer lending will help commercial banks better enhance risk supervision and management, it said. Experts said the growing number of finance companies could help reduce interest rates on consumer loans and improve the service quality of lending. Commercial banks also said that the transfer of consumer lending from commercial banks to financial companies would help the banks a lot, as they could exploit thoroughly the potential retail market, diversify services, as well as improve its risk management. They also said consumer lending accounted for just 6% of the total outstanding loans in Vietnam. Meanwhile, this rate was 15 to 20% in many other countries, and as high as 35 to 40% in the US. Vietnam and most of other countries in Southeast Asia are encountering challenges in ensuring equal and sustainable agricultural production. This information was released at a recent workshop in Ho Chi Minh City.
Speakers said ASEAN countries are opening their market and pushing ahead with agricultural production to cope with challenges posed by global integration and climate change. This means they have to build a value chain linking farmers, processors and the market, under which everyone shares profits and risks, especially for small-scale households in remote areas. In the case of Vietnam, the current biggest obstacle does not lie in production, but rather the capacity to access the markets. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development said over the past 5 years, Vietnam has attracted over 40 domestic and foreign organizations to develop the value chain of key farm produce such as coffee, tea, maize, vegetable, spices and seafood. The country has encouraged many multinational groups and domestic companies to build links among domestic and foreign enterprises, as well as between business players and farmers, paying special heed to farmers' interests and environmental and economic sustainability. However, the sustainability and expansion of such links are facing problems, requiring new approaches in business activities and investment strategies, as well as the forms of cooperation. Australian Ambassador to Vietnam Hugh Borrowman said Vietnam and other nations in ASEAN need to work together to seek more sustainable measures in the field.
One of the things that's become clear in agriculture, as in other sectors in the modern world, is how interconnected it is, that you need to work with business, with farmers, with scientists who are developing the seeds, with supply chain managers who are getting the produce to the markets, with governments to make sure that goods can easily get across borders in terms of both tariff barriers and infrastructure.
The two-day workshop was based on the Asian Growth Initiative of the Global Economic Forum. The initiative aims to promote inclusive agricultural investment and cooperation in ASEAN member states towards the ultimate goal of increasing profits by 20% for 10 million small farming households in the region and guarantee sustainable environment.
The Consumer Price Index in September slipped by 0.21% against the previous month and increased by only 0.4% of the last December. The information was announced at a press conference in Hanoi on September 24th.
According to the General Statistics Office, this is the first time in 10 years that the September CPI has dropped on a monthly basis. The increase of 0.4% compared to last December is also the lowest level over the past decade. Sharp price declines were reported in transport, 3.17%, while housing and construction materials saw the reduction of 0.68%, followed by restaurant and food services and telecommunications. Meanwhile, slight increases were seen in education, medicines and healthcare services, headwear, garment textile and footwear, household appliances, and culture, entertainment, tourism. In the month, the price of gold rose by 3.54%, while the price of US dollars went up 2.71%, after the State Bank of Vietnam increased the average interbank exchange rate between the Vietnam dong and US dollars by 1% on August 19th, and the fluctuation band for the exchange rates to plus or minus 2%. The September basic inflation increased by 1.87% against the same period last year, bringing the inflation rate in the first 9 months of this year to 2.15%. October's CPI is forecast to decrease slightly due to drops in food prices.
The value of industrial production in the southern province of Bình Dương, one of the country's industrial hubs, reached 153 trillion Vietnam dong, equivalent to $6.68 billion in the first 9 months of 2015, up 13.8% from the same period last year.
According to the Provincial Department of Industry and Trade, the domestic sector accounted for 50 trillion Vietnam dong of the figure, a rise of 12.3%, while the foreign invested sector posted 103 trillion Vietnam dong, up 14.6%. Two-digit growth of 12 among 27 groups of key products contributed to the high increase of total industrial production. Semiconductors, refrigerating equipment, footwear, wooden furniture, steel, garment textiles, and bags saw increases between 10 to 31%. The department expects good growth of a number of key local exports such as footwear, textiles, handicrafts, and wooden products, as most involved enterprises have already inked contracts for the remaining months of the year. As a result, total industrial production value for the year can reach 216 trillion Vietnam dong, approximately $9.5 billion, up 15.5% year-on-year. Bình Dương is now home to 19,500 domestic projects with total investment of more than 144 trillion Vietnam dong, $6.3 billion, and 2,511 foreign invested ones worth $22 billion.
The Ministry of Science and Technology has announced that Vietnam is ranked 52nd out of 141 countries in this year's Global Innovation Index, up 19 places from last year. More details coming up next. Under the Global Innovation Index report, Vietnam, together with China, Malaysia, India, Jordan, and Kenya, are among a group of countries outperforming their economic peers. Vietnam came third in Southeast Asia this year, after Singapore and Malaysia, thanks to the considerable investment in science and technology development over the past year. The country was placed 71st and 76th in 2014 and 2013, respectively. Following the positive result, the Vietnamese Ministry of Science and Technology will work with the scientist community in Vietnam to continue fostering innovation as a catalyst for Vietnam's industrialization and modernization. The report, annually co-published by the World Intellectual Property Organization and its partners, surveys 141 economies worldwide, using 79 indicators to gauge both innovative capabilities and measurable results. A Pharm and Healthcare Vietnam exhibition is taking place in Ho Chi Minh City, displaying a variety of pharmaceutical and healthcare products and equipment. More than 350 companies across the globe joined the event. The 10th International Exhibition showcases products at over 500 booths, including pharmaceuticals and machinery for manufacturing and packaging, diagnostic equipment, hospital furniture and equipment, healthcare and rehabilitation equipment, surgical instruments, consumable materials, and beauty care equipment and products. Foreign exhibitors are led by the Czech Republic's Association of Manufacturers and Suppliers of Medical Devices, Hungarian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Korean Medical Devices Industry Association, and the Taiwan External Trade Development Council. They introduces some cutting-edge products and technologies. A ceremony was held in the central city of Da Nang on September 24th to start the 365-day countdown to the 5th Asian Beach Games, which will take place from September 24th to October 3rd, 2016. This marks the start of a series of promotional activities for the successful hosting of the Games in Da Nang City. The Asian Beach Games is one of the continent's biggest sport events, initiated by the Olympic Council of Asia. The biennial event was held for the first time in 2008 in Bali, Indonesia. Next year's event is expected to draw the participation of about 3,100 athletes from 45 countries and territories. They will compete in 14 sports with 22 events for 165 medal sets. In the previous event, Vietnam ranked 5th in the medal tally with 8 gold, 12 silver and 20 bronze medals. And that has wrapped up our news bulletin. Thanks for joining us and goodbye for now.